I'm Chris, and today we're going to talk about how I refinish my floors. Let's do this real quick. Now, this was definitely one of the bigger home improvement projects I've decided to do. I had to make some decisions here. Was I going to pay somebody to do the floors for me? Was I going to pay somebody to go ahead and put new carpet down? I definitely tried to save this carpet, but I remember when this carpet was put in. I was about 4 or 5. That's over 30 years ago. I can kind of remember what the floor looked like underneath, so I decided to take a gamble. By removing the threshold in the doorway here, I can take a little bit of a peek underneath the carpet and see what I might be up against. I'm definitely going to suggest using some gloves here because everything's going to be tacked down to the tack strip. There's going to be nails and staples poking through, and I don't want to have to get stuck or stabbed with anything. And by removing this little bit, it gives me just a little insight as to what's underneath this carpet. I decided to take it a little bit further. I'm going to remove the door to get a better idea of what's underneath, and it's going to be a little bit easier to pull the carpet up. I'm still trying to be careful here, just in case I have to put the carpet back because the floor is way too damaged underneath. But I decided to go ahead and really dig in and get a good look as to what's underneath. Now, I'm definitely going to suggest if you do something like this and you make the decision to do it, definitely go ahead and remove the round molding, if you have any, that's along your baseboard. This way, you're going to prevent any damage to that round molding. You can keep it and use it later on when you're putting everything back. And for me, it was really easy just to pry up at the nail points and pull this round molding up. And then I would also suggest working in a clockwise pattern around the room and labeling each piece of molding, either dining room, living room, and with numbers, so you know where they all go when you put it back. Now, after you have the carpet removed from the tack strips all along the room, I would suggest cutting the carpet up into some smaller, manageable pieces. I even had to cut this carpet up just a little bit further so that it would fit into my trash can. But it's definitely going to make it a lot easier handling it and removing it from your house. I just threw it out the window in big sheets and then cut it up in my driveway. That was about the easiest way. Now, as I was removing the foam padding from the carpet, I noticed there was sand underneath. Now, I don't know if that was the carpet itself breaking down or if there really was sand under there. Maybe somebody knows here if they used to use sand to fill in the cracks and prevent the floor from squeaking. I'm not too sure. I also noticed a ton of huge nails in the floor, and I can almost bet that those were put in as a quick patch to stop the floor from squeaking. It may not be the right way to do it. You want to make sure you use the right nails or screws to stop squeaks so that they don't loosen up over time and even make it worse, make the squeaking worse. Now, as you can see, I'm a little bit excited. The floor doesn't look too bad. It's not all glued down. There's only a couple spots that I can see so far where there's glue that I'm going to have to take care of and remove. Now, the other thing is there's a ton of nails in this floor that I'm going to have to pound down underneath the floor level just so that I'm not going to hit it with the sanding pad. And there's also a bunch of staples that I'm going to have to remove too. Now, removing these tack strips could be a little bit tricky. They're pretty flimsy, and every time I go to pry it up where the nail is, the nail just pokes right through the tack strip and it leaves the nail sticking in the floor and the tack strip comes up. So I really have to make sure I get all those nails up too, just so I'm not hitting it with the sanding pad at all. After removing all the tack strips, you want to make sure you go around the room and pull up any staples or nails that are left and pick up anything. As you can see, I have a little bit of work ahead of me, but it doesn't look too bad. The floor is in rough shape, the finish is in rough shape, but that's about it. Along the edges of the floor, I can tell that the floor was refinished at one point, so all I'm planning on doing is really just taking the finish off by any means necessary. There was only glue under the seams of the carpet until I got to the front bedroom. That thing was glued down completely, and that was a whole nother nightmare trying to get that glue up. It definitely took some time. Be prepared to spend a lot of time sanding. This is where the hard work really comes into play into getting a good finish out of your floor. The more time you sand and prep this floor before you finish it, the better it's going to look. Now, you can go ahead and rent a professional orbital floor sander. I have to thank my sister-in-law for letting me use her floor sander. It was a tremendous help in completing this project. Now, that sander is really meant for just doing finishing sanding. It's not really meant for doing anything heavy duty. But all I'm planning on doing is taking the previous finish off, sanding it down a little bit, and then putting the new finish on. Now, you're going to have to sand around the edges of the room. I was fortunate enough to go ahead and find a little sander on Craigslist for 20 bucks, and that's one of the benefits of doing the work yourself. You could pick up new tools and still be under budget. Now, with the sanders I chose to use, there's no dust collection system, so I had to get a little creative. I put a big huge fan in the window to help blow any of the airborne dust out the window, and had to make sure that I had my dust mask on so I wasn't breathing all this stuff in. And then for some reason, a new shop vac showed up on my doorstep. I'm going to have to thank my mother-in-law for that because it was definitely a huge help in keeping my workspace clean. Now as you can see, the big orbital sander I was using may not get everything. It gets more of the high spots than the low spots. I had to use that small little orbital sander to get to the low spots. And for the really tiny dips in the floor and stuff like that, I found out using a tiny paint scraper worked the best to really scrape the old finish out of there. And in fact, I ended up scraping a lot of the floor with the paint scraper, but there's a risk involved with that. You can end up damaging the floor a little bit more. You could scratch the floor and gouge the floor very easily. Considering that this floor is over 100 years old, there's already a ton of character in it. This floor is far from perfect, so any damage I might cause to it, removing the old finish, it's not even going to matter. The application for your finish is going to depend upon what product you decide to use. For me, it's said to work in small areas around the room, applying the product first to a scouring pad and working it in, and then you want to go ahead and go over that with a little rag or something like that to really buff it out, a nice clean cloth rag to buff it out. And then when you do the main part of the room, you're going to apply this product, you're going to squirt it down with the bottle they provided, and it's an A and B mix, so after you've mixed the two together, you only have a limited time to work with this product. And you want to go ahead and apply the rest of it with an orbital floor buffer that has a red pad on it. Now this red pad is what you're going to use for the main application of this particular product. It's really going to work everything in there. It's going to work everything into the floor so that this product can go ahead and bond to the floor. And then after you've worked it into an area, they say you want to work with it for about 15 minutes and then you go ahead to the next step. I was able to go ahead and do a whole room with the red buffing pad before I had to switch over to the white polishing pad. Now the white polishing pad really is the last step in applying this product. It's going to go ahead and even everything out. It's going to pick up any excess product that's on the floor, and it's really going to polish and buff the surface so you can allow it to sit and cure over time. Now once I started working with this stuff, I was completely blown away at how the floor initially looked. You can see here the difference between the finished side and the unfinished side, and it just looks amazing to me. So right away I'm getting very excited. I'm happy about all the hard work I put into this floor, and I'm excited about how this finish is going to look. And what they recommend is after you apply all this finish to the floor, you let it sit for about 2 weeks before you move anything on it or you put anything down on it. And if you really want to, they say allow 4 weeks for this floor to cure and harden up and become waterproof. Now I have to thank my other sister-in-law for turning me on to this product. In the end, I was very happy with the turnout of this floor. Now mind you, it is over 100 years old. There's a lot of character in the floor. There's some boards that are split. There's a ton of nail holes and a ton of nail heads that I had to pound down and fill in. There's a lot going on with this floor. It's far from perfect, and I know that and I accept that. And I like the rustic look. I like the nails in the floor. It adds a little bit to it. It adds a little bit to the history of the floor. And that's fine with me. The other thing with this product is, if you're playing with Hot Wheels or something like that and you drop them onto the floor, it's going to nick the floor. It's going to create a dent or a scratch in the floor. And it's going to create a scratch in the surface of the finish. But you can go ahead and touch that up anytime you like. So I'm not sure exactly what it is with the polyurethane floors and how they react to everything and how this product compares to that. This is the first time I've really had hardwood floors. This product has more of a matte finish to it, not necessarily a glossy finish, and we went with something that didn't have any stain to it. It was going to be more of a natural look. And it's pretty comparable to a boiled linseed oil, and I thought that would be pretty cool for a nice finish to a hardwood floor. Undertaking a project like this could be a lot of hard work, but it can be very rewarding in the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Definitely check out some of my other videos, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. And if this video helped at all in making your decision to redo your hardwood floors, please leave a comment below. I thank you guys so much. Don't forget to take a look at the detailed description for any products or tools that I used in this video. I'm Chris, and today we're going to talk about how I refinish my floors. Let's do this real quick. Now this was definitely one of the bigger home improvement projects I've decided to do. I had to make some decisions here. Was I going to pay somebody to do the floors for me? Was I going to pay somebody to go ahead and put new carpet down? I definitely tried to save this carpet, but I remember when this carpet was put in. I was about 4 or 5. That's over 30 years ago. I can kind of remember what the floor looked like underneath, so I decided to take a gamble. By removing the threshold in the doorway here, I can take a little bit of a peek underneath the carpet and see what I might be up against. I'm definitely going to suggest using some gloves here because everything's going to be tacked down to the tack strip. There's going to be nails and staples poking through, and I don't want to have to get stuck or stabbed with anything. And by removing this little bit, it gives me just a little insight as to what's underneath this carpet. I decided to take it a little bit further. I'm going to remove the door to get a better idea of what's underneath. And